Hey YouTube, it is Lucy, and this is going to be our Q&A for Mr. Sutton's birth video. So y'all had a bunch of questions. I was actually kind of surprised by how many questions, and I get that because it is an unassisted birth, so it's a little bit different than usual. Stop, you've got a hair. Number one, do you get nervous during labor or does it feel natural to you now? So this person asking said that they had a little bit of anxiety during like the transition and pushing phase. As for me, no. I don't think there's time or mental space to feel anxious or nervous. You're so focused on coping with the pain and getting it to stop that there's not room for anything else up here. Number two, did you have a midwife or was it unassisted? Yes and no. I had a midwife for prenatal care. I also had an OB team for prenatal care because I am high risk, and he has a potential syndrome. We don't know because we haven't got in to have him tested. He actually had midwife and OB, but as for the birth, it was unassisted. There was no medical provider at all. Number three, any signs of complications during labor, birth, or afterwards? No. I mean, I always feel like when people ask these types of questions, they're like, their view or perspective is different than mine. So I would still say no though.
No.
No?
I think everything went great.
Did you ever have diabetes? No. I actually have low blood sugar, so I don't have high blood sugar issues or big babies for that reason. Oakland was just fat. I mean,
I think there's a type of diabetes where you have low blood sugar as well.
yeah, but when people are asking, it's usually, and this person specifically was asking in relation to high blood sugar.
Okay.
There was a whole message that went along with it.
Yes. Was this your fastest labor?
No?
Close?
I
I think
don't-
Oakland was a little faster.
I
but
feel
not
like
by much.
Oakland was faster, and I feel like maybe Hudson was faster.
No, that's pretty fast. I
Was
feel like
it?
maybe you think it was longer than it was.
I was really tired, guys. That's all I could focus on was how exhausted I was before the day even started.
Once
So-
you got into the pool,
and somebody actually asked
It
me
was
how
less
long
than 2 hours.
how long this labor was, and I couldn't answer them because I honestly didn't know.
I think less than an hour.
still don't know.
I think it was less than an hour after you got in the pool.
Really?
It was like 50
Yes.
minutes.
Number 6. Did your birth go as you hoped, or were there hiccups?
I don't think there were any hiccups. You read the birth plan.
There was.
I think it went as expected.
I think everything went good.
I
There was a
can't think of
whole lot of stuff in her birth plan, and I'm gonna be honest, didn't even read it at all once it started. Just kind of went with it, did what we all remembered. Natasha kept reading it.
And so did Tasha.
Yeah. I was just trying to make sure everything was okay and that we had.
There's a
everything we
question
needed.
where we're going to come back to this. So hold on.
Tips for looking glam during labor and birth.
Okay, guys, I will say I got this one a lot. Same question, different variations of. I need something to focus on, and Joel knows this. Like when I have something to focus on, like I obsess over it to an extent, but it helps as far as distraction goes. So if I'm worried about the way my kids look or the way I look or the way my home looks, then I'm not focused as much on pain or whatever else. So there's a reason behind it. It gives me something to focus on.
And it's because every single day she did her hair and makeup, just in case she went to birth.
That is true.
Yep. And picked out earrings and bras that matched.
I didn't do that every day. That was done
And-
beforehand, and it stayed in a bin that we have over here.
Yes,
But I showed that
She
on
did do an
Instagram.
outfit change after she gave birth.
Well, yeah, I had a labor gown and I had a postpartum gown.
And bra.
Well,
and-
robe. And, well, yes, because when you're in the
earrings.
pool, it gets wet, in all fairness. But I don't care. You don't even need a reason. If you want to change outfits 20 times in labor, then go for it.
Was this the most painful birth out of all the times you gave birth?
No, I would give that a giant
Jameson?
no, because that's exactly
Jameson,
why.
yeah.
Jameson's birth was hands down the worst birth for
Was
me.
it because you weren't in the water, you think?
Absolutely.
I was asleep the whole time.
Yeah. it was
That,
in the middle
and
of the night.
I had like boast hemorrhoid, and that made it so much worse. That was
And you wanted in the birth pool, but we were having problems with it. And
Yeah.
that was not a fun
that was an awful birth, and the postpartum to that was awful as well. Everything about it was awful.
So that was definitely the worst.
I'm scarred. Like, I have like serious PTSD from that kid's birth.
And how long was your labor? So from the time
I don't know.
15 minutes.
she was outside walking at what, 4?
Or something, I
Yeah.
think.
And she gave birth at almost
7:20.
7:30, so 7:26. So
7.
not that long.
And we weren't positive at 4 o'clock that I was even in labor. I know
Right.
that because we did a video and you were asking if it was the real deal. And I remember saying, he's coming out because I'm done. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I want to be done. So if it wasn't real labor, then I was prepared to pump, to do lunges on the stairs. I was prepared to do whatever it is that I needed to do to kick it into overdrive.
Yeah, because you had membrane sweep.
Yeah, and we're
at
going to
what
get to
time?
that too.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll get to
Okay.
that.
Like,
Was your birth easy, and how did it compare to your others? That's kind of the same question as others.
Yeah, I do feel like it was a little bit easier. Again, had I
Not easier. No birth's easy. What kind of question is that?
That is true. That is very, very true. Had I not been so tired, I don't think that it would have been as bad for me in the moment as it was. I woke up exhausted. I had been exhausted for days, and I couldn't catch a break. I could not get any sleep. So had it not been for that, I would say that it was pretty easy. But my mental space, because of the exhaustion, was not a good place. 11. Who was the woman with you, and what was she doing with her hands? So there were actually quite a few women here, but I'm assuming they are referring to, I got Kason peeping in. Yeah, I'm assuming they're referring to Tasha. So she's a really good friend of mine. Oddly enough, I met her the night before you were born. We were at my doula's birthday party, and that's how I met Tasha. So we've actually been friends since I was pregnant with Emerson, and we've grown closer over the years, but she knows me. That was my point to saying all that. She knows me very well. She's also had a home birth. She knows birth. So I don't really need to tell her what exactly it is that I need. She can anticipate that need, which is something that I feel like is amazing to have during labor. So she was here as a friend, and what she was doing with her hands was counter pressure. So if you'll stand up for me and turn around. So at your lower back, which is right here, and then when you go down further, you've got like the top of your butt crack. That area is where she was applying pressure.
Top of your butt crack.
It is. It's the top
What's
of your,
that called?
your sacrum
Sacrum,
area.
there
But I don't know that everybody else will. I feel like the majority of people who are watching this will know. But yeah, so she was way, way down there and just applying a lot of pressure. And as she was applying pressure, I was pushing back to make it even more pressure. It helps. It helps a lot with the pain. How were you prepared in case of a real emergency? Again, my perspective is a little bit different than others. As far as emergencies go, we had a couple different plans. In the case of a true emergency, life or death, we would obviously jet out the door to the hospital or call 911. But otherwise, we would probably do what? Call 911. We would probably do what we could do here at home and then still transfer if need be. So for example, if we had bleeding issues, we had like a step-by-step list of how to take care of that. And some of those are tinctures that we have. Some of them, depending on why you're bleeding, it's such a vague question. There's so many different things. So it just kind of depends.
But in case of a real emergency, we would go to the
911.
hospital. Yes,
Yeah.
100%. We, like she said before, she had a midwife team, she had OB, she had all these people, so they work at a hospital. So a real emergency occurs, we call them and we meet them at the hospital.
And they had all my information. So, and they knew, which we'll get to, but they knew our plans. So everybody was really prepared.
Yes. Is the baby checked over by a pediatrician after, like how they do it at the hospital?
Yes. So normally we go in about day 2, day 3, day 4, but he was born on a Wednesday evening, so that we're now the weekend, and that did not happen with him. I did call the doctor's office to let them know that he was here and what they wanted to do, especially as far as like getting his testing and stuff done. They were supposed to actually call me back on Friday, and they didn't. So we were planning to go see them on Monday. I don't know if that's still going to be a thing, but yes, we do see them, and we see them as quickly as we can get in. And our pediatrician knows our birth and knew our birth plans as well. So yeah, we're good.
Were you super quiet because there were kids in the room?
No. No.
She was just super quiet this time in general. I said that. And that's always the way I can tell when, like, the labor's getting real, like we're about to have a baby.
I do a lot of low moaning.
I said to her, she sounds like a demon's coming out of her. And that never happened this time, except for one time.
I don't think I sound like that.
Yeah,
but
it's like an exorcism.
I have a lot of low moaning. Look at you.
A few curse words come out. Yeah. Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my perspective is different. It's way more glamorous than my head.
I think only one. Once I heard the one contraction where it was like really low like that, that's when I started recording. Because up until that point, I was like, I don't need to record yet. And then I heard that, and I was like, all right, let's go. And then I think 20 minutes later, baby. So there wasn't. It was definitely a lot more quiet this time as in comparison to the other ones.
And honestly, I didn't even know who was in the room until I watched the videos back. I had no idea because the majority of the time when I'm in labor, my eyes are closed. So
this was way different. And you didn't throw up. You always throw up.
But I was exhausted, and I had an A, and that was part of why I was exhausted. I had nothing in me to throw up. I had not ate in forever.
What did Emerson think about catching Sutton?
That's
What'd
your
you think?
question.
Did you like it?
She was nervous at first. So this whole time she's planned to do it, and then when it came down to putting on her bathing suit, she kind of chickened out. She was like, I don't want to. So then Payson came in the room wearing the bathing suit, and I was like, what is going on? So one of the other ladies that was here is another friend of mine. She was just here to help with the kids, and she was telling me that Emerson was like, I don't know if I want to do it now. What happened? Why'd you get scared?
I didn't know if I was like gonna keep him under the water when I was catching the baby or like bring him up.
Okay, so you were a little uncertain on what to do. Okay, so then once you were in the pool and you were catching him, what did you think in the moment? Was it what you thought it was going to be? No. What
do you remember? I remember you
What
felt
was
his head. What'd you think it was? Or how was it different than what you thought?
I was not expecting him to be really hairy.
He did have a lot of hair. Yeah.
That was, I think, your very first comment was how much hair he had.
Did you like it? Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah? So you're not traumatized? No. Now that others have watched Emerson do it, would anyone else want to catch a sibling too? I don't know.
Payson definitely wanted to. Hudson would not quit talking about
it. And there's a question later on where I'm going to get back to that too. So,
you wouldn't even hold him.
Yeah, I think the girls would definitely step up to the plate. Matter of fact, I haven't asked him, but I'm willing to bet Kaysen would too.
No, not at all.
You don't think so? He's always even with Jameson, and he wasn't awake during Oakland's birth, but even with Jameson, he was all up, ready and watching, and he was asking to hold the baby before the baby was even out all the way. Do you remember that? Yeah. We were like, dude, only his head is out. Just chill for a second.
What is the story behind his name?
There's not really a story. Sorry for the disappointment. We picked a few names that we liked. We narrowed it down to 3 or 4. And then none of the kids could decide, and Joel and I couldn't decide. I mean, we went back and forth to the point where I was like, guys, we're not doing another Emerson where we end up with a 26-day-old baby and we have no name. I'm not doing it again. So I texted Joel, I was like, that's it, we're going with this one. It was the first on the list. So that's how I came to the decision, and he was like, okay.
At first I cared, and then I was like, I don't care anymore.
Because we went back and forth for so long that it just got to the point where I think we were both like, give the kid a name. I mean, any of them are fine at this point.
If you ever get overwhelmed having all the kids around during labor, ever want to be alone?
No.
She gets less overwhelmed. I kind of get more overwhelmed.
That's what I was, yeah, I would agree with that.
Coming, because kids are kids. They tend to be loud and
But it doesn't bother me.
pay attention to what is happening. So they come in just busting doors down and screaming and yelling, and I usually tell them to skedaddle.
See, that stuff doesn't bother me, and I think it's just because he works a lot, so he doesn't deal with that perspective a whole lot, not like I do. For me, that's just my everyday. And I know that's different than being in labor, but it's, I don't know, it's never bothered me. I enjoy having the kids come in and out. It, again, is a distraction for me. It's nice to see what they're doing, and if they want to come over and talk to me or hug me, I like the distractions. It helps. So no, I don't want to be alone. I feel like that would be horrible for me. Don't leave me alone. Don't do that.
Number 20, do you think the membrane sweep helped, or was your body already doing its own thing?
Well, the membrane did. It did help, but I will say, when I got up that morning, let me back up. When I went to bed that night, I was having contractions. I got up that morning and they stopped for a little bit because I remember saying that on the drive there. And then as soon as we got to the midwife office, I was having them every 10, 15 minutes. I don't know, somewhere in that ballpark. The whole time I was there. I had the membrane sweep, and then on the drive home, I was telling him, it stopped.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, I was having contractions, had a membrane sweep, and then it stopped. So the whole time that I had the occasional contraction after the fact, I didn't think anything was going to come from it because the membrane sweep in my head made everything stop. So I honestly don't know. I think it helped, but I don't know that my body wasn't already doing something. I don't know. Did your midwives and prenatal providers know of your unassisted home birth plans? Yes, they knew about it. The OB team knew about it. Everybody knew about it. And everybody was actually really supportive. Even the OB team, which caught me by surprise. They are obviously more medical minded than anybody, but every time I'd go in for appointments, they were like, all right, well, you know the drill. You know what we recommend, but if you want to come back, we'll see. We'll keep seeing you for as long as you keep coming in. So they never were rude or pushy or anything, which I love. I couldn't have asked for a better experience.
Were they supportive?
Yes, they were very supportive. We even talked about with my midwives about being sent home with a Foley bulb if I got to, close to 43 weeks gestationally. They were trying to find alternatives to help keep me out of the hospital. Even at that point they were. So yeah, I felt very supported.
I want to know more about the nuchal cord and how you handled it like a pro.
Okay, so for those who don't know, a nuchal cord is just where a cord is wrapped around the neck when the baby comes out. So if it's a nuchal cord times 2, it's wrapped around the cord times 2. His was around his neck and it was spiraled, like it was twisted downward. So I had to unwrap him, and then after that you don't have to undo the spirals. It just automatically kind of unwinds itself. So you just literally, I had the baby and just pulled the cord over his neck, and then we pulled him out.
It wasn't super tight. There was a good gap in there.
No,
so, yeah.
And because of the spiral as well.
You could kind of push the spiral down a little bit. Yeah.
It wasn't hard, and he obviously didn't have an issue flying his little hiney out. So there was quite a there was quite a bit of slack in his umbilical cords.
Number 24, which birth was the most difficult and painful?
Jameson.
Yeah, Jameson. Number 25, how did you stay so calm during pushing? She stops breathing and focuses only on pushing.
I was breathing.
I will say that until I said breathe.
No, I will say that was annoying.
I was looking you dead in your face.
I was breathing. Very much so. I was breathing.
She wasn't breathing.
I was breathing.
She wasn't.
I wanted to kind of throat punch both of them at that point.
Is that why you started breathing at that point?
I wanted them, you know what? I did need them to leave me alone in that moment. I take that back. I did want to be left alone in that very second. Don't talk to me. Don't tell me what to do. I know what I am doing. I am breathing. Shut up. But I couldn't articulate any of that because I was so focused.
You articulated it by breathing.
I was so focused in that moment. And that kind of goes back to how I stay calm. Whatever is going on up here, I cannot get it to come out of my mouth when I am in labor. It doesn't happen. Because had I probably wouldn't have been very kind.
How did you prepare your little one to help catch the baby?
We talked. They're talking about you. We talked about it. I mean, she's been to enough births. She kind of knows what the drill is. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. But apparently we didn't talk enough about it because she got nervous at one point.
See, number 27. How was the placenta with being post-dates, and how did it compare to your last post-date? My good
Pregnancy
Lord.
and placenta.
Your last post-term pregnancy and placenta. Bunch of P words in there.
The placenta this go around was it was clear that it was post-term. Oakland's placenta, despite being post-term, looked much better. I think his was also just healthier in general. It was larger. It looked greater. It looked better.
His was not very big around, but it was super thick. Super thick. But I don't know if that means anything. My foot's asleep.
Old
Sorry.
man problems?
Yes, my foot's just going to sleep. I'm just sitting here. I'm not even doing anything. My foot's asleep.
But there you go. I mean, you could tell his was post-dates, but other than that, I mean, it was your typical post-date placenta. Nothing abnormal. Was there meconium in the water? I never saw any. I don't know if you're talking about the amniotic sac or like the birth pool. I don't know, but he did have a little bit of meconium like right here on the side of his head, and I think you can see in the birth video where I keep trying to like wipe it off.
Is that what that was? I didn't think that's what that was.
Yeah.
I thought that was just mucus.
No, that was a little bit of meconium. So, but that was all I ever saw. I watched that. I was in the water when his water bag broke, but I didn't see anything in it.
How was the bleeding afterwards?
Great, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
he always gets a little bit concerned because I've had postpartum hemorrhages and I have clotting disorders, and that's part of what makes me high risk to begin with. So I feel like everybody around me stays super alert, but I take my meds. I'm really preventative and I'm alert as well, but I don't have that same fear that I think everybody else has. So it was great.
Hey, with home birthing, how do you still feed the whole crew at dinner? Who's helping with food while you heal? Well, this time, while Lucy was in labor and pushing, I was on my phone on the side of the birth tub right before I started recording, ordering McAllister's and asking everybody what they wanted and handing my phone around and letting everybody besides the kids that was here order their stuff. So McAllister's delivery. That's
he
one
bought
good thing.
food for the family and for
Everyone's
the birth
here,
photographer and our friends and everybody that was here. So he bought food for everybody, and then a friend went to go pick it up.
2 minutes before you delivered.
I checked our doorbell footage. She walked out the door the moment my water broke.
Yeah.
So I felt like poo. I felt
And then
bad for her.
I didn't realize. Obviously, I wasn't.
Nobody realized.
And then I saw Faith, and we had just given birth, and I looked down at the watch after everything. I was like, "Are you gonna go get the food now?" She's like, "I already did." I was like,
"Oops."
When? She's like, when y'all were giving birth? I was like, sorry.
Whoops. That's how that happens. And a friend did set up a meal train for us for postpartum, but I think she said it wasn't working well, and we've just kind of been making do ever since. We don't have family here, and I didn't like prep frozen casseroles and stuff, so you just make do.
I bought a bunch of frozen food.
Yeah.
Right before.
Number 31, did you tear? How do you heal? Do you get stitches? I did tear. I didn't know that until here recently. She's grabbing a new battery pack for us. Once the swelling went down, I was able to get a decent look, and I did tear an old tear that I had from Kaysen's birth. No, I do not get stitches. I would never do that. I prefer to heal naturally. It's better. It's much easier. Number 32, did Emerson actually get to catch the baby? It's hard to tell from the video. Yes, she did. I did help her because better safe than sorry. And I don't know who asked this question, but babies are very slippery.
Yes.
They are very slippery. And when you're in the water, you don't want to pull a baby out, have them take in that first breath, and then drop them back in the water. She did get to catch the baby.
Yeah. How do the kids feel, and what do they think about having 7 siblings?
Well, you're the only one in here, so do you want to answer that? How do you feel about having 7 siblings?
He's in there too.
Well, he can't answer that question.
I don't think we have
Kind of annoyed sometimes because
There's a lot of people to potentially annoy you.
Yeah.
Especially Jameson's crying.
Yeah, he's been super whiny lately. Yes.
He's going through a phase, and it's a lot of big feelings, and he's learning how to cope with them. So there's a lot of whining. It's not even crying, it's whining. And she's right. It can be extremely frustrating.
Yes.
I think the whole family could agree with that at the moment.
All right. 34. Did anyone miss the birth? Why? I don't think Jacelyn was in the room whenever he
Yeah.
was actually born.
She's the only
She was
one.
with her friend in a room watching TV, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think she was the only one, but she came in right after. I think in the video you can see me tell Jameson to go get Jacelyn. I don't know if you can hear it, but I think you can
You can't hear it, but you can see Jameson the moment the baby comes out. You
Yeah,
can see
I was like,
Jameson
"Look at
duck,
Jason." Yeah.
and then he runs out the view, and that's what was happening in
Yeah.
that moment.
35. How do the kids feel about watching the birth? They love watching and rewatching all of the births.
Yeah.
We sit down and do that actually quite often. So
I
they
think
like
they're
that, yeah.
referring to watching the birth in the moment, though, not necessarily like watching the birth
Oh,
after
okay.
the fact.
They all liked it. Yeah.
We leave the option up to them. I mean, they can come and go as often as they want during the labor. Nobody is forced to be here to watch the birth. I mean, it's completely up to them, and I feel like it should always be that way. So with that said, I feel like they love it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any worries you haven't previously had during labor since you were post-term?
Yes. But the only worry was I didn't want to be induced. I didn't want to have to go to the hospital. I didn't want to have to give up my birth plans. That's it. Like, I wasn't worried about him because, again, we had amazing providers, midwife and OB, so we knew that he and I were well taken care of.
37. How was your feelings and headspace regarding pain this time around?
I was exhausted.
Yeah, she did not want to do it.
No, I did
No.
not. I was so tired. And it's not that I really minded the pain, which you do, but I was so tired that it made the pain just annoying. It was just annoying.
She was just ready to be done. Yes,
I wanted to
definitely.
sleep, and I think I probably said that multiple times during
Yes.
labor is I want an epidural so I can sleep, or I want to be done because I want to sleep. I
Yes.
want to sleep.
Was the tearing better or worse? We kind of already hit on that.
Yeah. The tearing this time around was, I would say it was a little bit worse than it was in the past. I feel like my smaller babies, I always tear. It's my bigger babies that I don't, because the bigger ones come out slower. The smaller ones come out so much faster, and it just, I don't know. That I typically tear with them, so.
39. I don't know who asked this, but shut your mouth. Do you think there will be more babies?
We're not going to answer that question because I've answered it before in the past, and that was not the case.
Doesn't matter
So
what we say.
we're not answering that.
That's hilarious. Number 40. Did anything not go the way you hoped?
No, I think it all went according to plan. We kind of touched on that earlier, so I would say that it was great.
Yeah, I think everything went
Yeah.
perfect. 41. Do you think any of the labor encouragement worked? And if so, what do you think helped the most?
So I did pump the night before. I didn't plan on doing it until the following day, but I was like, you know what? I'm tired. So I pumped and nothing really came out of that. Woke up the next morning, like I said, had contractions, did the membrane sweep, and that was the only labor encouragement that took place, was the pumping, which I did once or twice. Did I pump twice?
I don't remember.
Or just once?
Twice.
Twice?
Yes.
Okay. Once or twice.
Twice.
And then the membrane sweep, which happened once. Yes. So I don't know. I don't know. Where does the birth rate out of all of your births? I would say it's at the top.
Yeah.
I feel like both my unassisted births, I would rank the top two because it's my house, my rules, my way. So yes.
Jesus
Go
Christ.
give yourself.
Were you scared of what he's going to look like because of a potential syndrome?
No. No. We knew going into this, once we found out that he has a potential syndrome, we knew that it wasn't going to affect his looks. We knew that he was going to look no different than any of our other children.
Can you do an update on baby having chromosomal abnormalities?
Well, number one, we don't know that he does. We're still waiting to do the testing.
We have to do blood test, and obviously he's
Yeah.
tiny, and I don't want to do blood test yet because it
And
doesn't really matter that much.
There's no imminent need to do the testing because, again, we had a home birth. We were supported by our providers, and that goes to say that there's no major medical situation that's taking place.
Yeah.
So we'll do it when we can, but we don't have an update because we can't update. We don't know if he does or doesn't at this point. Would you say Joel already knows what to do, when to do, and when before you tell him to? No. No. And no. I'm going to say no. I love him. I genuinely do. But no, he cannot anticipate my needs despite having 8 babies. So, together, no.
Thanks.
He is amazing with taking care of the kids and the house and like the man stuff, like the setting up the birth pool, and like he knows all of those needs.
You can't say stuff like that. What is man stuff?
Oh, shut up. Well, obviously the girl in labor is not doing all of that stuff. I mean, she could, and if she is a beast and a birth goddess, because that's not me. But
when it comes to
stuff,
having all the stuff
partner
ready
stuff.
that needs to be ready for what is going to happen next, I do all that great.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes,
he's got the birth stuff down, but when it comes to like supporting me, I think he's so focused on everything else that needs to be done that he can't really anticipate my needs, because it's like trying to be in 2 places at once.
True.
So that's why I have my friend here, and that's, I mean, a woman knows a woman, and some men, sure, they can be great labor support partners, but
I had a bunch of other responsibilities and things.
a
to do
lot of
also.
other responsibilities. And my friend Tasha, she's a woman. She's had babies. She's had a home birth. She knows that pain. She knows what you need. And that's not something that he's ever going to be able to relate to. So
Nope.
he's amazing at what he does, and we fill in the needs elsewhere.
What was the most complicated birth you ever had? There's a lot of the same questions here.
Yeah, I
Most
mean,
complicated?
James.
I
don't
would
know
say
if it's complicated. Really.
Payson or Emerson.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Every time we say Payson or Kayson,
Don't. You're going to make it do it again.
Siri pops
I
up.
would
It
say
makes no sense.
I
don't
would say
know.
Pace or Emerson. Payson's just because I had progressed so far and the labor had stalled, and it was a bit of a poop show at first. So
And there was other issues going on that I was having to deal with.
we had family issues, family issues that were happening. And then with Emerson, her labor was great. But we did run into some immediate post-birth issues, and those complications with a partial uterus prolapse. My midwife, the whole midwife situation involving her birth was really, really crappy. That midwife ended up losing her license, if that says anything. So, I would probably say Emerson's directly after she came out from that point forward.
47, when you were slapping the pole and the lady came and hugged
her and she hugged back.
you. Oh, yeah.
Was that some kind of code thing you wrote in your birth plan? No.
Yes.
Again, that's her being able to anticipate my needs and her knowing me. That was like, I got a contraction. Let's go. Get back there. Where's that support? Let's do this thing. Because again, everybody who knows me knows that like when I'm in pain, I cannot get my thoughts out of my mouth. So it was just one of those, here's a non-verbal.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. It's coming.
Natasha, and that's all, and then she came.
Yeah. So no, it's just she knew me.
What were the rules of children coming in and out during birth? There were no rules.
You come and you go. Actually, I will say that there was a rule, and it was in my birth plan, and that was for everybody else to not tell the kids what to do. Don't try to keep them out of the room. Don't try to keep them in the room. You let them have free range of whatever they want to do. This is their home. This is their space, and we are their parents, and they should have free access to come and go however much they want.
49. Can we see your birth plan?
It's like a 5 or 6 page birth plan, so maybe I'll share it another day, but it's...
Birth plans are very specific to the person and the place and the people that are there.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering, in order to help you, I don't think it would...
No, it's mostly a bunch of rules for other people that were here. Like, don't say anything negative. Keep positive energy. If I am quiet, then maybe, tone it down a little bit. If I'm laughing, laugh with me. Just feel the vibe and vibe with. Don't vibe against. Don't wear your shoes all throughout the house. Just one of those pet peeves of mine.
And at least 6 times remind you to go pee.
Yeah. Anytime, yes. Anytime my bladder is full, my contractions are much worse. And also my placenta typically gets caught behind my bladder, so I need to empty my bladder for the placenta to come out, and that helps with the postpartum bleeding. And so yeah, empty my bladder was on there a lot. And also, don't ask me if I want a drink. Just put the drink in front of my face. If I want it, I'll take it, because I'm not going to be able to answer you. It goes back to me not being able to be verbal. Yeah. So that's basically all that it came down to. There was also hold the kids accountable. If they're making messes, then tell their butts to clean up their own mess.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it after having a baby. They're big enough, they can clean up after themselves.
Yep. Number 50. Best coping mechanism you've learned during all your births?
Distraction. Stay distracted. Stay focused on other things. That probably won't work well for other people. I don't know, but it works well for me. I like having the kids come in and out. I like having something else to think about. So
yeah. Let's see. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I will say by doing so, it allows me to not be ridden with fear or anxiety or overthink things. It allows me to just naturally be in tune with my body and my baby, because I'm not really thinking about it. I'm just instinctually doing whatever it is that is needed.
Yeah. If you have more kids, are you going to do another home birth, or do you want to have an epidural at the hospital like what you were mentioning?
So this person is saying this because if you watched the birth video, there's a clip where I'm standing right here, as a matter of fact, and I'm spinning in circles saying I'm not going to do this again. If we ever had another, that's it, I'm done. I think that was more being in the moment. However, I did tell him after the fact that I was still very serious about that. But as time goes on, I don't know.
She wouldn't have an epidural at the hospital, I don't think. I think that's a fear of pain, and I don't want to do this at the last minute. And
a little bit of panic.
I don't think
that you have to do it again.
That you don't remember pain. You really. So
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do feel like I've done it so many times that in a sense I'm done. But at the same time, I don't have a home birth just because it's a home birth. I mean, I do, but I'm petrified of a hospital.
She'll not being told what to do or having to worry about people doing things that they're told not to do.
My fear is that this is my body. Don't tell me what I can and can't do with my body. Don't feel like just because I'm in labor that you have the right to touch me or to administer something. Just because I'm in labor, it's still my body. It's hands off, and you need consent. And I feel like a lot of hospitals nowadays don't ask that consent. It's assumed, and it's never assumed, labor or not.
Yeah.
So there's that, and I feel like the same situation with my baby. Just because it's a baby born here does not give you the consent to touch my baby and do what you want. So it is very much a control thing.
Do you have a midwife on call in case you need them?
No, we do have our backup plans, but that involves going to a hospital. But no, we don't have a backup for somebody to come here.
No. What made you want to do an unassisted birth?
Control. Which I will say that I've had some really crappy midwifery experiences, and they unfortunately were pretty bad. I'm not going to say anything more than that. So that kind of ruined it for me. It's about control. It's my body, my birth, and yeah.
Yeah. And it's really expensive now. It's way more expensive than it was before.
When we had Kaysen, it was originally $2,500
now
plus
it's almost $10,000.
the assistant fee, and now, like he said, it's $10K, and that's out of pocket. You got to pay cash. There's no insurance to cover that.
I feel like she said she wasn't going to get into it. I feel like a lot of
Midwives have glamorized it, and they're making profit off of it.
Yeah, it's became kind of like an OB thing where they're on
call,
rotations and call, and it's all about money,
revolving
money.
door.
So that's how I feel about it.
We're kind of bitter and salty with the way that the birth network has progressed over the last decade where we live. It has gone backwards in midwifery care, and that's really, really unfortunate. There are plenty of great midwives out there. The midwife that I had with Kaysen, I still love and adore, and if I could hire her again, I would. So I have had a great experience, but they unfortunately weren't all that way. And unfortunately, a lot of them nowadays it's about the money.
Number 54 and last question.
Yes.
How serious were you in saying you wanted an epidural? I think she says this every time. So not at all serious. She just, whenever you start feeling pain, you're like, I don't want to feel this pain. And you're looking for any way of not feeling that pain.
Any relief. I will say I was kneeling on this bench at the foot of our bed with Oakland, and I remember telling Tasha and Joel, that's it, I'm done. Load me up in a car and let's go to the hospital because I'm getting an epidural. And then I think 30 minutes later he was born. Yeah. So there's always that, you get to a point in natural childbirth, at least I do, where you hit a wall, you hit a brick wall, and you just slam it like a freight train. And when you do, it's like your mind is just done. You tap out. But that point is always that transitional point where baby's about to be here, and you're so focused on not wanting to be in pain that you just don't realize it. Yeah. So
whenever she said that, me and Tasha looked at each other and we were like, no, Lucy, no. We're not going anywhere. We are past that point. You're having the baby here. Sorry.
And again, had I been able to articulate anything, I would have told them to.
It was past the point. It wouldn't have mattered.
Some unkind things. So
would have been having a baby in a car at that point. So
very much so. We might not have even made it to the car. In all honesty. So that's all the questions. Hopefully that answers everything. We do appreciate the ability to kind of engage with y'all, especially since YouTube took away the comments section. I hate that. I hate not being able to engage with y'all. So I do love that some of y'all have came over to Instagram, because I do read every message and every comment, and I try to reply back to as many as I can. I've made some amazing friendships off of YouTube. It holds a very special place near and dear to our hearts. Of course, not everybody is that way, which is why we left. So, but yes, this was a way for me to be able to engage with y'all. And I appreciate all of y'all who asked some questions, and we were able to answer those for y'all. It was nice. And plus I get to spend time with some of my family. A little bit one-on-one, kind of. It's nice, isn't it? Being able to kind of escape from the chaos of everything else. Until next time, we will see y'all later, YouTube. Bye.
Bye.
That's how you do it.
It's Lucy back again with another video.
With my 10,588th video. What? You have a lot of videos.
Okay, so.
I think I need to read the questions because I'm just sitting here.
But your eye candy.
Yeah, right.